What's up, everybody? This is Digital World Podcast. Today, I kind of want to keep that notion going of what could possibly happen and how we can learn from history and kind of see what could hit us at any point. And this is not to alarm anyone. If anything, this is just a reminder of being prepared and knowing that you're positioned correctly to be able to survive what could happen. And I'm not saying these things will happen. They are possibilities. And on this channel, I want to provide straight, honest opinions and facts that we have and how we can learn from previous events and apply that to what's happening today. So let's jump right into it. I want to bring up the fact that we know that Ripple has private versions of the public open source XRP ledger. And these private ledgers provide central banks a way to securely control and also have a flexible solution to create and manage digital currencies. And when this came out, that was big news. Okay, so that means that these central banks have been using and testing the ledger and what XRP provides. And this is interesting because we just looked at the SWIFT document, and it says how all these over 10,000 banks and institutions, over 212 countries are involved with SWIFT. Now, if Ripple's to replace that new financial system, right, all these banks would have to be on board, wouldn't they? Now, with this news coming out, that's huge because it's almost like the changing of the guard. And it's just a matter of time. It's not if it happens, it's when it happens. And I kind of want to run this up your flagpole of what Mark Carney said about XRP. And he said, Carney has raised the question of whether a globally coordinated systemic hegemonic currency could dampen the spillover shocks associated with the dominance of the US dollar as a reserve currency. A systemic hegemonic currency could, for example, be a stablecoin backed by a basket of deposits at different central banks. It is possible that such a stablecoin could be valuable for cross-border payments, serving a function similar to that offered in the private sector by Ripple, a real-time gross settlement system, currency exchange, and remittance network whose digital currency, XRP, leapfrogs slow and expensive correspondent banking. Now keep this in mind because he's an important player in all this. Now I'm going to show you a few clips to kind of keep reiterating at the fact of what we're talking about here and how Jim Rickards, despite him having, coming from a different view, all of what we're talking about here applies. Now listen to what is being said in these clips.
On Earth. This list includes the International Monetary Fund, the Bank of International.
Let me go ahead and take it off 2 speed. Okay, here we go.
Settlements, the World Bank, the United Nations, and every central bank in the G20, including our own Federal Reserve. When the signal sounds, you predict that this network will pull the plug on the global financial system. Now, that will cause every bank, brokerage, and business to go dark in a massive coordinated attack. Their latest hit list, if you will, includes some 5,967 banks, such as Wells Fargo, Citigroup, and J.P. Chase. But they won't stop at the banks. These elite operatives will move to take control of approximately 3,800 asset managers as well. Now, Jim, you expect to see them seize control of BlackRock for nearly $5 trillion, Fidelity for $2 trillion, Vanguard for $3 trillion, and UBS and State Street for a combined $5 trillion or so. And when the freeze comes, citizens nationwide will lose access to their money almost instantly. No cash will be allowed to enter or exit the system without the network's approval. And Donald Trump's presidency will not likely survive the chaos about to ensue. But before we get to the details about...
Now, it's interesting because he listed the IMF, the World Bank, the Federal Reserve, and all these banks. And he mentioned BlackRock, which actually is a big institution that has assets under their management. And BlackRock was involved in the great financial crisis. They were asked to help out. And it's interesting how we're seeing all these things come together and how all these players are all a part of it. Okay, now let's keep this going. Let me go ahead and fast forward here because we're going to tie this all together. We just want to show all these clips and then have a conversation about it. Here we go.
These elites share one vision, and they're about to make it a reality. That vision is one world order, one world taxation, and one world money. They've worked for years behind the scenes preparing to realize that vision. They've literally rigged the laws of international finance. Everything is basically in place right now, and there's essentially no way to stop this from happening. When the crisis hits, they'll flip the switch, freezing the global financial system. That will give them time to reset the world economy according to their vision. As the coming crisis unfolds,
So we see here that they have this vision. They all have a goal in mind, according to Jim Rickards, and that's to have one world money, one world taxation, and a one world order. And so that's a very, very interesting thought, very bold statement, and we've seen globalization increase over time. Now some say that's speculation and stuff, and it could be. It really could be. But you have to wonder, with the increase in globalization, is this a possibility, a reality, that we are all under that one order? You got to wonder. I mean, this is Jim Rickards saying these things, you know. I'm just starting the conversation and asking the questions of if this is actually a real possibility. Now, let's fast forward over here to how he puts it together in an example.
Global financial system in their hands. To get a sense of how they operate, imagine an array of floating spheres. One sphere is labeled IMF, one is labeled Fed, one is labeled Bilderberg, one is labeled Wall Street, one is labeled central banks, one is labeled intelligence agencies, one is labeled media, and so on. The elites inhabit all of these spheres, and together the network forms a kind of 3D Venn diagram. As I see it, regardless of what sphere they inhabit, the elites all share the same vision: one world order, one world taxation, and one world money. All of their actions are geared toward moving that agenda forward.
Now, are you able to share the identities of these elites with our viewers?
We've identified more.
So these people work for all these institutions, as he just mentioned them as being a separate sphere, and they all come together to attain that common goal. And now right here in this next clip, he's gonna go ahead and describe or mention a few names who we're very familiar with. Have a listen.
More than 189 individuals who are in many cases hiding in plain sight. Regardless, they all share the same vision: one world order, one world taxation, and one world money. A short list would include Christine Lagarde, Managing Director of the International Monetary Fund, IMF; Mark Carney, Governor of the Bank of England; Raghuram G. Rajan, Vice Chairman of the Bank for International Settlements; Haruhiko Kuroda, Governor of the Bank of Japan; William C. Dudley, President of the Federal Reserve Bank of New York; Agustin Carstens, Governor of the Bank of Mexico;
there we go. We've heard of him.
Janet Yellen, Chairman of the Board of the Federal Reserve System;
and now she's
Mario
in
Draghi,
Biden's
President of the European Central Bank; Zhu Min, former Deputy Managing Director of the IMF; Zhou Zhiuquan, Governor of the People's Bank of China; Robert E. Rubin, Chairman of the Council on Foreign Relations. This A-list of central bankers and other elites is just the tip of the iceberg. Of course, not one of these elites will tell you outright what's going on.
So, I mean, Christine Lagarde, she used to be director of the IMF. Now she's at the head of the European Central Bank. And all these people are connected. You may not see them hanging around, but they know each other. And, you know, Jim Rickards has been working with the White House, with intelligence agencies, and everything. So this man knows what he's talking about. Now, everything he's saying, yeah, it could be speculation, could be his opinion, but you've got to wonder. Mark Carney was one of the people he mentioned, and Mark Carney has stated that the digital asset XRP could be used to leapfrog slow and expensive correspondent banking. And we know that banks have been using a private ledger to create and manage digital currencies. I gotta tell you, this is getting interesting by the minute. And so, if you're well positioned, you could benefit from it. Now, but also keep in mind that there's always risk, but everything's a risk at this point, and why wouldn't you position yourself in a way to give your family an opportunity that can change your life? I hope this episode has brought you some value. This is the Digital World Podcast. Like and subscribe, comment below, and let's keep this conversation going. I'll see you in the next episode.